So, this legend of the pineal gland is worldwide. It's infused through all these different religions, all these different traditions. Keep showing us the same thing. Now, how does this actually work inside the brain? The trick to understanding the pineal gland is to realize it's not just a chunk of flesh. It's mostly hollow. And inside that hollow area is water floating around. Then the interior tissue that the water is connected to has little cells that are called pinealocytes. And the pinealocytes appear to be almost exactly the same as the rods and cones in the retina of the eye. In the book, I have hardcore mainstream science studies one after another analyzing these pinealocytes, saying that they look like the rods and cones in the retina, and breaking it down as well, because it turns out that the pineal gland is wired into the visual cortex of the brain just like the eyeball. They actually call it a phototransduction cascade. So what's the big deal with the water? I mean, if you have this retina inside your mind, it's wired up like an eye, it has retinal tissue, what the heck is it looking at? Well, it appears that there's crystals in the water, and then darkness activates some sort of electromagnetic shield around that water, which then allows it to open itself to the source field. So, when you get this electromagnetic activity, and I'm going to explain all this as we go on, the electromagnetic activity, as your pineal gland fires up, you'll feel this pressure, this buzzing sensation like a tone or an acceleration in your head. You read books about people doing out-of-body work. It's often said that they have this sudden cracking sound in their head as they go out of body. A very loud, something like that, sorry, that's really loud. But that pressure, that feeling like there's a sound in your mind, appears to be this electromagnetic shield firing up in the brain, shielding off the radio waves and all the conventional electromagnetic signals from our reality. And without those signals getting in the way, the source field can bleed its way through. And in that source field, time is non-local. Remember, I said the source field creates space, time, matter, energy, and biology. So when you go into the source field, you have three-dimensional time. Time is no longer local, it's no longer linear, it's non-local and non-linear. You can jump around in time. And that's a discussion I got into in 2012 Enigma, and it's a discussion that I go into great detail about in the book with amazing, voluminous new information about this three-dimensional parallel reality that intersperses with our own reality all the time. Water appears to be the key. The water that's floating in the pineal gland is one of the main things that is able to flip-flop back and forth from our reality to a parallel reality. And I explain how that flip-flopping is possible in the book. And we're going to do it throughout this weekend in the conference that you guys are here to see. Then this inner retina is recording visual images that are coming in from whatever this water is doing. That seems to be the mechanism. The water is shielded off, and that automatically happens when you go to sleep. Every time you go to sleep, that pineal gland fires up, and then you actually have dreams which appear to be in a whole other reality. I have multiple studies in the book showing people having shared dreaming realities, clear examples time and again that the place that you go when you're remote viewing or when you're out of body or when you're dreaming is a real place. Also the place of ghosts. Ghosts or apparitions. There's a case of somebody that Raymond Moody talks about dying in the operating room, visiting their loved ones out of body. The loved one actually sees them as a ghost. They have a conversation. The person is then resuscitated, and they both remember the same conversation. So you were alive, but dead, and then while you're dead, you go visit somebody else, and they can see you, and you look just like a ghost. That's your existence in the source field. So if you're out there looking at things in your astral body, maybe somehow you're capturing those photons and bringing them back to the physical body. This brings us to this concept of DMT. Dr. Rick Strassman, of course, wrote the book DMT, the Spirit Molecule, a doctor's revolutionary research into the biology of near-death and mystical experiences. There's been a lot of intrigue around the idea of DMT. Why does it work? Why do all these shamanic potions seem to have so much of this chemical in them? Dr. Rick Strassman cites a lot of evidence in this book that the main point where DMT is synthesized in the body is the pineal gland. It has all the right receptors, all the right enzymes, all the right chemical catalysts, and we know that it has melatonin in it, and there's only a couple short chemical shifts that you have to make from melatonin to get DMT. Well, the problem is that DMT degrades so quickly that nobody's been able to autopsy a dead body fast enough to find DMT in the pineal gland, because it breaks down in just a few minutes. But this brings us to Nick Sand, who is the son of one of the scientists who worked on the Manhattan Project, which created the nuclear bombs. Now, Nick Sand is personally responsible for manufacturing over 250 million doses of LSD. He was the main guy responsible for creating almost all of the acid that was being taken at Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco in the 1960s. He was the Pied Piper of LSD for sure. He got caught for it. He was given a 15-year jail sentence. He evaded it for some 23 years. He finally turned himself in 1996. He served a 4-year sentence and got out in 2000. Now that's all documented. He did his time. But while he was still at large, before he ever even got arrested, he was out there synthesizing everybody's acid. He also synthesized DMT in the lab. And this is a direct quote from this Erowid Vault website. EROWID is the website. And I quote this in the book. Here's the thing that happened. He found that DMT had full color lighting effects on a very interesting level. Here's what happened. This is a quote from Erowid now. When hardened DMT that had collected in a tray after he synthesized it was being chipped out with a hammer and a screwdriver in a room that was brightly lit, the blows emitted massive amounts of colored light. So imagine this room is brightly lit. Imagine that I'm standing here and I have this tray and I hit it with a hammer, and then you're seeing red, and then you see blue, and then you see green, and yellow, and it's bright enough that it's like, wow, it really lights up the room. That's what they're saying. But what was doing that was DMT. Now what's the property of that? Well, if you ever had a cigarette lighter and you push the button down, it goes click, and then you see that spark. You know what that click is? Do you know how that spark is made? It's a crystal inside that's compressed, and through a process called piezoluminescence. The crystal, as it's compressed, those molecules release this burst of light, which releases photons. That's called piezoluminescence. That's how you get the spark that lights your cigarette. The same thing's been done with crystal radios. That's a piezoelectric crystal. The crystal actually is responding to electromagnetic waves, which are radio waves, and it actually vibrates in those waves, and you can pick it up. That's how they were able to make radios that don't require any electrical power. The electromagnetic frequencies of radio waves make that crystal vibrate, and then you can listen to it and pick up the radio. Depending on how tightly you compress the crystal determines what radio stations you'll get, because as you tighten the pressure on the rock, it actually, the molecular distance narrows, and then it tunes in different frequencies of the radio spectrum. But here what we're seeing not only is piezoluminescence, but piezochromatism, which means that the photons the crystal gives off when it's compressed, in this case by hitting it with a screwdriver, actually change color. So if you wanted to have a nanotechnology projector, like what I'm using right now, but on a quantum level, if you wanted to get a full color image on a quantum level, you would need piezochromatic crystals to do that. You'd need crystals that when they're compressed, depending on how you compress them, release different colors, so you can actually get a full color image. That's what I'm actually saying is going on. The pineal gland has DMT crystals, calcite crystals, and other crystals that are floating around in that water, and they appear to be piezochromatic, meaning that as they are compressed by energy fields, they give off colors of light, different color, full color image, ultimately. When you shield off the electromagnetic signals going into your pineal gland by that energy firing up, the source field, which is just as energetic as electromagnetic energy. It's the same basic substrate. It's It's actually what gives rise to electromagnetic energy. The source field is able to vibrate those crystals and release the photons of whatever your astral body is seeing. So literally what I'm saying is that as your astral body is out there floating around looking at things, you pick up those photons, you send them back to your pineal gland, and then it vibrates those crystals and gets caught by the retinal tissue and fired into the visual cortex of the brain. This is explained by the idea of the silver cord. Many people, when they go out of body, claim to be seeing a silver cord that is connecting their astral body to their physical body. The vast majority of these reports say that the cord is connected at the exact location where the pineal gland would be, in the middle of the eyebrows or at the back of the head, and it's in the same location in your astral body. So what if this silver cord is actually a traversable wormhole? What if it is literally a stargate connecting your physical body to your astral body, so that in your astral body you're looking at photons, and you could be sending photons through that cord out to where you're looking. Remember the Chinese remote viewing experiment? They saw photons appearing in the room. The photons are captured by your astral body, they shoot through the silver cord, they go into your pineal gland, and then of course it picks it up. So the key again is to shield yourself off from the conventional electromagnetic fields that are all around us most of the time. It's important to realize too that the water inside your pineal gland is the trick. If you don't have the water fully flowing, then calcium is going to build up because the pineal gland is not protected by the blood-brain barrier. So that calcification can actually grab onto the DMT crystals, the calcite crystals, and this has all been documented. Believe me, I'm not making this up, it's all in the book. The calcification can get so extreme, as you see here, that almost the entire pineal gland is just a bony lump that actually shows up on x-rays and allows them to figure out if you have a brain tumor. The tumor pushes the brain off to one side and the bony lump actually moves. So look, you don't want this to happen. And the trick to making sure this doesn't happen is making sure that you're having a pure diet. There are so many things in our Western dietary system that calcify the pineal gland and will make you much less psychic. And that includes, the biggest offenders would be refined sugar, white flour, fried food, and factory-raised meat. If you can eat ethically raised organic meat, or none at all, but a little meat is good. If you can have, specifically fish would be like the best pineal gland activating meat to have. Organic fruits, organic vegetables, lots of fresh, clean water. Specifically, the best kind of water would be reverse osmosis. You want to get those minerals out of your body. You got to give your body a chance to decalcify. And the more organic and raw food you can eat, the faster that's going to work. Whereas all these other foods, like white flour, which is in everything, pasta, bread, that's going to calcify your pineal gland and make you notably less psychic. And if your pineal gland gets really, really calcified, it's related to anxiety disorders, mood disorders, schizophrenia. It's even related to tremors like multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. All are correlated with a calcified pineal gland, as I reveal in the book.